Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, but tomorrow is officially the day. You might be wondering what day. Well, Palantir Technologies gets included into the S&P 500 before market open tomorrow. Remember, a few weeks ago, that was the announcement, and then we had the inclusion effect. Palantir up about 14 to 15%. Tomorrow is when it's actually within the S&P 500. And this means that all the different types of accounts that are passively kind of tracking different types of indexes that track the S&P 500 will start passively buying Palantir. And historically, we've seen positive increases in the actual market capitalization of the individual stocks that join the S&P. And we're going to be talking about, a great accomplishment, bringing maturity to the stock, but also what we could be expecting in the markets this week. We got some price predictions, some articles to cover based on Palantir, and also 4 things that you possibly could have missed. We're going to be also wrapping up with what to expect because we had that 50 basis point cut for the federal funds rate. What's going to be happening until the end of the year? Are we expecting more? We have PCE index data that will have a further gauge on how inflation is performing. That's going to be happening this week, and also some important metrics to cover. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Pop it up on the screen here. Palantir Technologies, remember, closed at 37.20, doing fairly well. And the question is $40 on the table? There's going to be a lot of different market variables. I don't know if we have that true, test of confidence about that $40 on the table until I think we see how the market's going to be operating tomorrow. Good things to remember. We see actually a decent amount of support at the mid-30s for Palantir. If we did see any drastic changes in the market, $30, that's a very great support level, and that's because we've seen some important reversals that have been triggered there. That would be a big drop in in a market day. But mid-30s, good support there. You see some consolidation. Technically, Palantir is doing pretty well. Now, covering here, like I mentioned, Palantir and Dell set to join the S&P 500. We're going to see that with the exposure, with the inclusion of the major, indexes, as well as buying from these different funds, tracking the benchmarks can support companies' stocks. Historically, we've seen about a 5 to 6% increase when these stocks actually do get into the S&P 500 right here, but they could get a boost as its shares start to be included, which look to mirror basically the performance of the broader index. So that's what we'll see what happens if there actually is that much of a difference, or if a lot of that was priced in with the inclusion effect. That could also be incredibly a big answer right there in terms of possibility. Now, talking about some stock price predictions that came out here for 2024, 2025, and 2030. Interesting here, looking at the methodology by utilizing technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and expert opinions. Combination here for 2024, the stock, basically a lot of analysts expected to hit about 36.98. That's right around where we're sitting right now. Many analysts, but they are more optimistic by the end of the year or early 2025. We've seen that recently with some analysts talking about $50 is on the table. I think $40 is that next leg, that next milestone to hit. But that's still about a 40% increase. And there is a lot of momentum behind Palantir right now. I think everybody can agree with that. Yes, valuation is high. That's going to be the biggest criticism if you're taking a bearish perspective on Palantir. And it's not something to completely throw out of the table. However, the technical basis in the story behind Palantir right now, I think is enough to carry the momentum possibly to this $50. I think that is still possible. What we've seen Palantir do in the last few weeks and in the last few months has been pretty astonishing, and we've seen that just in their earnings reports. Fast forward here to what are we talking about for 2025? Now, the forecast is about $50, making it that 40% jump here. Talking about that operating cash flow, Palantir has a great business operation and balance sheet. A lot of cash on hand, very minimal debt. We don't see that with a lot of companies and a lot of tech companies specifically. And fast forwarding here over to the next 5 years, Palantir, they're saying analysts could push Palantir up to $275 per share. Now, you might be thinking right now, that sounds crazy. And it does sound crazy. But that is still 5 years, a little over 5 years down the line, representing about a 650% increase. This is based on the company's current 10-year growth trajectory and the anticipation of AI and data analytics into society as a whole. What's the market capitalization and how is AI going to develop? With Palantir being a leading competitor within the industry, and if you think about this trajectory growth that continues to grow, hey, it may not sound so crazy. If Palantir does continue to grow at this historical rate and with its dominance with the governmental and the commercial contracts, expansion with AIP, I don't think it's a crazy number. If you really take a deep dive into what Palantir has been doing from terms of a performance record and what the predictions are for the future. So talking about that, its ability. Also, though, as Palantir does grow, it's going to face tougher competition. It does with Google and Amazon that are also investing heavily into AI. However, Palantir has been doing a great job already competing in the AI arms race. Now, some of the things that you possibly could have missed about Palantir, expanding its relationship with Nebraska Medicine. We saw that to kick off the week. They had announced their expansion of the pioneering partnership with Nebraska, talking about this, bringing AIP into its actual healthcare platform, working to develop workflow, working to help increase claims, which helps increase revenue, also bringing more of a reduction in time for discharging patients. So just trying to bring efficiency across the healthcare space, which is due for a lot of efficiency. A strong vote in confidence. You also have the Bank of America here. They added Palantir to the firm's US 1 list. And this is a pretty important list to hit and a credible list to hit. To be included on this list, your stock must be listed in the US, have a buy rating, and be covered by the investment bank's equity research. And also, they must have an average trading volume of 5 million during the last 6 months. Palantir has done a great job being able to hold that. Another thing, expanding into the Maven Smart system. Now, they were awarded the contract that we saw. We saw the 5-year deal, that basically $100 million deal right above that, going through 2029, expanding and targeting tool, working with the governmental side of things. This has been a bread and butter sector for Palantir. It was a big, I want to say, variable in building credibility and trustworthiness. And now you see the expansion to AIP. All these governmental ties and contracts, that's on Palantir's resume. And they have that now for these AIP boot camps, working for trials for the commercial sector. So great there. And also, of course, joining the S&P 500. I don't think a lot of people missed that, but that's happening tomorrow. Like we said, the announcement date was a few weeks ago. Tomorrow is when it's actually going to be included. Next, earnings. November 1st, still a decent amount of time away. 11 bullish earnings per share revisions in the last 90 days. Doing pretty well there in terms of the forefront announcement date. But like I said, still a decent amount of time away. Won't be really talking about that too much. What to expect in the markets this week? This is going to be more important. Talking about here from the Fed, Powell is going to be talking about delivering remarks this week coming after last week's interest rate cuts. And a lot of people are going to be listening to him, and a lot of Wall Street eyeballs and ears will be fully tuned in because we're going to be trying to figure out the probability of interest rate cuts for the rest of the year. Is the cycle going to continue? We also have Friday release of the August PCE inflationary data that is going to show whether inflation is going to continue to ease. This will also be important in terms of the continuation of the reduction of those federal funds rate and the interest rate. Big also thing, we see the housing market starting to get more attention right now, especially in terms of mortgage rates. Now, new impending home sales data that's going to be released this week, along with an update on housing prices and kind of consumer surveys on how many people are actually looking into purchasing homes. As we've typically historically seen, when the federal funds rate does reduce or actually decrease, we do see mortgage rates that typically follow. However, mortgage rates are pretty live, so they actually price in kind of what the anticipation of the future federal funds rate is. So what the current rates are right now basically have already been priced in from the 50 basis point cut that we saw. So they're a little ahead of the curve in terms of what they are pricing in. So lots of things that will be happening this week. I want to know, we also have Micron Technology, Costco, a big one, and ACN that's going to be reporting their earnings. Costco is going to have a lot of steam behind it, as we've seen Costco's been doing fairly well. That's all I have for you guys. It'll be interesting a week. I always don't, have a ton of viable information to predict in terms of what's happening because it's always great to see that first day of trading. What do you guys think is happening with Palantir? You think that $40 is on the table? What do you guys think about those price predictions? You think they're realistic? Do you think they're a little too over our heads and maybe that's just, too over justified? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Peace out. Take care. It's great to be back.